Nobody remembered his name. Nobody even looked at him twice. And that was exactly the point. A quiet man, a cheap meal, a bill that got paid, and something left behind that turned one woman's entire life upside down in the best way possible. If you think you know where this story is going, I promise you, you don't. This is one of those stories that sounds too good to be real, but it happened. And by the time you reach the end of this video, you're going to look at every ordinary moment in your life just a little differently. So don't go anywhere. Let's set the scene. It's a Wednesday afternoon in late October. Chicago, cold gray, the kind of day where the wind hits your face and you just want to go home. But for Maya, going home wasn't really an option yet. Maya was 36 years old, single mom. 2 kids, a 6-year-old daughter named Zoe and an 8-year-old son named Daniel. She had been waitressing at a family restaurant called Harlow's Diner for almost 5 years. Not because it was her dream job. Not because she woke up every morning excited to carry plates. But because the rent was due every single month without fail. The kids needed new shoes. And the electricity bill didn't care about her feelings. In America, the average base wage for a waiter or waitress sits somewhere between $2.13 and $5 per hour, depending on the state. Yes, that low. The tips are not a bonus. The tips are the job. Without tips, Maya was basically working for nothing. By the time he was 52, Marcus Hale was worth more money than most people could imagine, and completely alone inside of it. He lived in a house with 12 rooms, most of which stayed empty. He ran his business with sharp eyes and a locked heart. And before he let anyone close and anyone at all in, he tested them. Not out loud, never out loud, just quiet little situations. He would set up to see what a person would do when they thought nobody was watching. He had been doing this for years. Most people failed. Elena had worked for Marcus for 6 years. She cleaned the house, managed the kitchen, kept everything running without being asked twice. Marcus trusted her, which for him meant he had stopped waiting for her to disappoint him. That was the closest thing to trust he had left. So when Elena asked if her daughter could stay at the house for the summer while she worked, Marcus said yes without much thought. He figured the girl would stay out of the way. He would barely notice her. She showed up when his coffee cup was getting low, refilled it without him asking, brought extra crackers with the soup without being asked, smiled at him genuinely, not the fake smile that waitresses sometimes paste on because they have to, but a real one. The kind that reaches your eyes. He noticed. He didn't say anything, but he noticed. After about 40 minutes, he raised his hand slightly. Maya brought the check. He opened his wallet, placed a $10 bill inside the check folder and said, "Keep the change. That was a 75-cent tip on a $9.25 meal." Maya said thank you like she meant it, because that's just who she was, and walked back toward the counter. When she turned around a minute later, the man was gone. No goodbye, no wave. He just paid the bill and vanished. Like he was never there. Maya went to clear table 7. She stacked the soup bowl, grabbed the coffee cup, picked up the napkin, and then she saw it. Under the coffee saucer, a folded piece of paper. She almost left it. People leave stuff all the time, receipts, lists, random notes. But something made her pick it up and open it. It was handwritten. Blue pen, neat, careful handwriting. It said, "You refilled my coffee before I had to ask. You smiled like you meant it. You let me sit in peace. In my experience, people who are good at the small things are exceptional at the big things. I'd like to offer you an opportunity if you're open to it. Richard. Please call." There was a phone number at the bottom. Maya read it once, read it again, then stood there at table 7 holding this little piece of paper, completely unsure what to think. Her first reaction, and she admitted this later, was suspicion. Because when you've been struggling your whole life, you get a little allergic to things that sound too good. You've been let down enough times that hope starts to feel dangerous. She showed it to her manager, Karen, who told her to Google the number before doing anything else. That night, after Zoe and Daniel were asleep, Maya sat at her kitchen table with her laptop and typed in the number. What came up made her sit back in her chair. The number was connected to a private holding company, registered under the name Richard Calloway. And Richard Calloway, if you dug just a little deeper, was a man who had built and exited 2 logistics companies over the past 30 years. His net worth, according to a 2021 Forbes mention, was estimated at around $1.8 billion. But here's the part that really stopped Maya cold. Richard was known for something very specific. He had a philosophy and almost a personal mission of finding what he called invisible talent. People who worked hard in places nobody was watching. People whose character showed up not when the cameras were on, but when they thought nobody cared. He had funded a bakery owner he met at a laundromat. He had mentored a teacher he sat next to on a train. He had invested in a mechanic who fixed his car and refused to overcharge him even when he easily could have. He didn't go looking for people with perfect resumes or big ideas. He went looking for people with the right heart, and then he put resources behind them. Maya called the number the next morning. Her hands were shaking so much she misdialed twice. Richard picked up on the third ring. They met 4 days later at a small coffee shop, neutral, public, no pressure. Richard was exactly the same in person as he was in the diner, calm, simple, no performance. He asked her one question. What would you build if someone gave you the resources and got out of your way? Maya had never been asked that before, not once in 36 years, so she took a breath and told him the truth. But here's the part that really stopped Maya cold. Richard was known for something very specific. He had a philosophy and almost a personal mission of finding what he called invisible talent. People who worked hard in places nobody was watching. People whose character showed up not when the cameras were on, but when they thought nobody cared. He had funded a bakery owner he met at a laundromat. He had mentored a teacher he sat next to on a train. He had invested in a mechanic who fixed his car and refused to overcharge him even when he easily could have. He didn't go looking for people with perfect resumes or big ideas. He went looking for people with the right heart, and then he put resources behind them. Maya called the number the next morning. Her hands were shaking so much she misdialed twice. Richard picked up on the third ring. They met 4 days later at a small coffee shop, neutral, public, no pressure. Richard was exactly the same in person as he was in the diner, calm, simple, no performance. He asked her one question. What would you build if someone gave you the resources and got out of your way? Maya had never been asked that before, not once in 36 years, so she took a breath and told him the truth. Richard spoke about Maya in a short interview once and said something that stuck with a lot of people who heard it. He said the coffee refill wasn't the reason he left the note. It was one piece. The real reason was simpler than that. He said, she treated a $9 meal like it mattered. Like I mattered. Most people save that energy for tables they think are worth it. She didn't sort people. That's rare. And that's the thing about this story that goes deeper than a feel-good ending. Studies on workplace behavior consistently show that people perform differently when they think they're being evaluated versus when they think nobody's watching. A 2019 study out of Harvard found that workers who maintained consistent effort regardless of observation were rated significantly higher in leadership, potential, and long-term reliability. Richard already knew this, not from a study, but from 30 years of watching people. The world notices the big moments, the speech, the presentation, the interview, but character is built and then revealed in all the moments in between. The slow Wednesday afternoon, the $9 order, the coffee refill nobody asked for. You never know who is sitting at table 7.